All right, today's episode of the Coach Mark Gottfried Show, I've got a wonderful guest. He's got an amazing story. And Curtis Malone, he built, founded, started, and created one of the biggest and probably the most amazing grassroots basketball programs that we've seen in a long time in our country. It was called the DC Assault, Washington, D.C. area. And Curtis has a great story. He built an amazing youth basketball program. He developed and helped guys get to the NBA. But at the same time, Curtis got himself into a little bit of a mess, spent 6 years in prison. He's out of prison now. He has a great story to tell, and we're going to dive into his story of building up one of the great programs in the country in the grassroots level, but then having to overcome some poor decisions and what he's doing now to kind of get his life back in order. He's an author, written an amazing book. So we're going to have a great time visiting with Curtis Malone, formerly of the DC Assault Grassroots Basketball Program. All right, welcome back. This is the Coach Mark Gottfried Show, and I always say this, I've had these amazing guests with interesting stories and a lot of lessons for all of us to learn from. And today I'm really excited because I've got a guy that I've had great respect for years and years and years, who built one of the best, if not the best, one of the best grassroots basketball programs. And we kind of refer to things as AAU and traveling team, but grassroots with young people. And I've got Curtis Malone. He founded and ran and organized the DC Assault, a team out of the Washington, D.C. area. But today, Curtis, I just want to say thank you, man, for taking some time. You're now an author. You got a great book out called Duplicity. We're going to talk about that.
Yes.
We'll talk a little bit about your life story. But first of all, just welcome, man. How you doing?
Good, man. I appreciate you having me, Coach. It's been a great since returning, man. I mean, been accepted with open arms from a lot of people, man. And I really appreciate the opportunity for you having me on.
Curtis, it's my pleasure. And we're going to get into this story a little bit later. And Curtis spent 6 years in prison, and we're going to talk about that. But before we get into all that, Curtis, I just want to talk about, like we talked about before we came on, you and I have been around youth basketball for most of probably our whole lives, really, and we've poured a lot into young people. I was a college basketball coach for years and years, but your desire to help young people in forming a grassroots basketball program, and, a lot of times people see the guys that go on to the NBA, and you've had a lot of NBA players that came through your program. But there's also just a lot of kids that go to college and play basketball, or some of them don't even play basketball in college, but you're going to college. So the passion to help young people, Curtis, that's where I want to start with you. And just tell me where that came from and how you got going and really had that desire to do that.
Yeah, well, growing up in the neighborhood that I grew up, it was a whole family, everybody were in each other's home all the time. So we always had a love for one another. So when I started playing basketball back in high school, we would always have all the kids over. And my dad, he would take everybody in. He took care of all the kids. So for me, it was the normal. Once I was able to do it, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to give back. Once that dream wasn't there for me like most kids, I just wanted to give back and change lives, whether basketball or staying out of trouble, any kind of way I could.
A lot of people, they watch college basketball or they watch NBA, but they really don't realize, how many people poured into them growing up, and coming up, and where you have a program. And for a lot of kids, there's a lot of guys, we celebrate the guys in the NBA, but there's a lot of young people that just benefit from being a part of a good program where they're learning teamwork and they're learning how to work hard and they're learning about being unselfish. They're learning about their academics and somebody's pointing in the right direction. And sometimes without guys like yourself, there are a lot of young people that, they wouldn't be in the positions they are today. So talk a little bit about, kind of the overall philosophy of the DC Assault, because you had one of the best in the country, period. for a long time. And but just talk about that kind of overall what's going on within the program that a lot of people don't see. They don't really realize all the other things that are happening.
Yeah, and a lot of times people don't know all the work that is put into these kids, man. I mean, when you back in the day, Coach, we started, and most of our kids were from the inner city, and I mean troubled kids. So just getting them off the corner and helping and get them to see something different than what their environment offer was difficult. But we put our heads together as a group. And I mean, it was tough. And, as those kids grow, you just want them to first be able to go to college. That's the number one thing. And if basketball presents itself, if you're good enough to make money, then that's good. But we always try to create and build kids with character. Everything was about character for us. Even though the kids we first had were hard-headed. I mean, they were from the hood. But, we were... they bought into it. And that was one of the biggest things with DC Assault. Our kids bought into what we were doing to prepare them for life. So, one thing you would get if a kid did come to your college or play or not play, you're going to have a kid that's been disciplined and he's a well-rounded guy that we tried to produce. Everything was about character with what we tried to build when we first started DC Assault all the way through the end of it.
Curtis, talk a little bit about, too, again, I'm trying to bring out some things because most people really don't have any idea what you're really doing, around the country. They don't know the impact you're really having on young people. But, I can imagine, Curtis, there were some young guys that, you put them on an airplane and you flew to Las Vegas or you flew to Orlando or whatever, wherever you went, and you took your teams and they played against the other great players. But some guys, maybe that might be the first time they've ever been on an airplane in their lifetime.
Most of them, you're absolutely right. Most of them, and it was some that didn't want to get on a plane. But again, that's exposing them to something different. And not even a plane. Some of them hadn't been probably on a bus unless they rode a school bus or the metro bus in the city. But most of the kids had never even been out of their neighborhoods coming up. They hadn't seen anything else. So, we used to always tell the kids, the same way there's a bad side of Southeast Washington, D.C., there's a South Side in Detroit and Chicago that got the same kids that go through the same thing, and their environment is the same. So we really wanted to show the kids something different, and that it is other kids, other places that struggle, and, that's given an opportunity just like you guys to build something special in your life.
Curtis, how did you I don't want to say deal with parents, but you had to have good relationships with a parent. And a lot of kids probably had one parent, but you had to kind of make that a priority too, because, parents had to, give their child to you for a period. Like, okay, I want you to help. And, you're going to keep them, in the gym, and you're going to get them to tutoring, and you're going to do those type things to help them. But talk about your desire to invest in those parents or they're investing in you, in other words, with their child.
Well, I had to invest in the parent too, because, a lot of those parents needed help too, just like the kid, so you got to take on the family along with the kid, having kids. And, I remember a kid going into the store after practice and he's stealing, putting stuff in his jacket, and I see him. And I'm like, what are you doing? He like, I got to take food home to my little sister and them, and I'm like, you don't never have to do that again as long as you're with me. But I built trust. And those parents, when we started, I mean, they trust us with their kids. They trust us with their siblings. And I was a big guy on trust. Everything is about trust. And I think, again, go back to character. Your character is everything. I think the parents believed in me. And the crazy part, for 20 years, most of the parents I'm still friends with, every kid that came through this program.
Isn't that amazing? And
yeah.
It's a testament, Curtis, to you and what your program did. And as a college basketball coach, like I can speak from my side of it, we wanted guys that came out of programs like yours. We wanted those guys because we also knew that, if somehow they weren't acting right or they weren't playing well or they're down or somebody's in their ear, coming out of a program like yours, it's a phone call away to where now you're supporting the coach. You're saying, hey, you got to do this. And I don't want to listen to you whine all the time about all these things. And you were one of those guys. As even if guys left your program and they went on to college, you still stay involved with them and try to continue to help them stay on their path to get wherever they went to, even if they're playing college basketball at the highest level.
Yeah, for sure. We stayed in all of them life, Coach. Again, even when I recruit, I make it known this is a family. We're building something special. So, but I'm building tough kids who, when they come to you, they are prepared and they ready for everything that you're going to throw at them, because college not going to be easy. It's a big adjustment. And some kids think I'm just going to college, but that's what we tried to build, and we kept those relationships. So when you do call, we're going to jump in their butt when I have to make that call for them to do the thing.
Curtis, talk about this for a minute. So let's say you got a young guy and he might be in the 6th grade or 7th grade or, 8th, or sometimes you might get a guy when he's in the 9th or 10th or 11th grade. It doesn't matter. But you all of a sudden you got a guy in a program, and it's just like us in college. We're trying to build that relationship to where they trust us. When I get on them, they know it's for their own good. It's going to be to benefit them. Talk about how you started to build trust with those young kids when they walk through that door for the very, very first time.
Well, I think spending time with the parents along with the kid. And I think for me, one of the things, the way I would recruit back then was I would always know who was who in every neighborhood that I went in all across Washington, D.C. So when I knew who knew everybody, and I would find friends that I know that live in this neighborhood or on that block, and they would put me right with the parent, and she would most of them would open up, the dads would just open up, and I always made them feel like a brother or sister. And I made sure they understood this is not just while your son play here. This is a lifetime relationship. And I think that's really how I did it. I just gave my all to the parents too, and they believed in me.
Early on, Curtis, when you started, and a lot of people, again, that follow college sports, they don't really know, all the things that you and I know, and the things that, how programs are built and started in summer and spring and fall basketball and, all the events you guys go to. But when you start a program like you did, even though yours became one of the premier grassroots basketball programs in the country, when you first started, how did you go about raising some money? Because when you first start, Curtis, nobody at Nike or Adidas or Reebok or Under Armour, they don't really know who you are. They don't know anything about your program. And here you are, and you're trying to sell it, and you're trying to create some revenue with it. Then you can take kids on a trip, and you can go play in a tournament, and you can stay in a hotel, and you got to have a bus or a flight. How hard was that for you just at the beginning?
Well, it was hard, but us as a group, all the guys everybody put in and would take money out of their check, out of their household. Troy Weaver, Mike Sumner, those guys were working. Everybody gave a hand, and we made it happen, man. I went around and I would bum money from guys who I knew had money. And, some of my bad friends, when they were doing things, I knew what they were doing, but they would give money if it was for the kids, to get them where they need to go. But along with that, we had to feed them, because most of them didn't have much, when they came to us, so we we did everything in our power to ask for money, beg for money. We got it however we could. And, a lot of me had to spend a lot of my money when I wasn't doing the right thing either back, in the day. So it was a group effort, man, that Mike Brown, we raised. We made it happen. We went on trips. Guys was putting money on their credit card. They were getting in trouble at home with the wife, and, what is this on this card? $7,000 trip, but we paid it back and we made it happen. So, well, it was all the guys. We gave a hand, everyone involved in the program, man. We made it happen.
When you're building a grassroots program and yours, the DC Assault was the best, when do you think, Curtis, when did it kind of go to another level? You kind of had your starting period, you're getting going, and then all of a sudden you guys took this big step, and it was a big step where you started to become the one of the handful of 2 or 3 premier in the country. Like when was that point that it kind of turned for you?
Well, when I realized AAU was very big in our area because there were a lot of good teams back then. And when we decided to do AAU, I started to steal the good players, and I would take the players, from other teams. And when we would go on some of these trips, now I'm seeing what AAU is all about. So we kick a few butts, and now we make a name for ourselves. When we first started the program, we were going to tournaments and events. Some weekends we didn't know what our name was going to be because we may change the name on the team according to who gave us some shoes last week. So, again, 1 week we're Team Assault. 1 year, few summers, a few tournaments, we were Planet Reebok. Reebok gave us some shoes. And then again, the name was Aerial Assault. That was a shoe. A lot of people don't know that, Coach.
That's right.
And
That's right.
These guys, they wanted Walt Williams to wear the shoe, and I don't think Walt liked the shoe. Didn't last long. But our team, they gave our team all the shoes. So we named our team Team Assault because of the shoe.
So, Curtis, I'm going to ask you another question a little bit about the early years at DC Assault. Talk about some of the players throughout your time there that you kind of felt maybe elevated the program, because like all of us, even in college coaching, I get some great players and all of a sudden I've got a better chance to win. You guys did the same thing, but talk about some of those guys in the early years for you that really elevated the DC Assault and your program throughout those years.
From beginning, having kids like Delonte Hill, who ended up going to play at UNC Charlotte, Mark Karcher from Baltimore, Kevin Lyde, big Kevin Lyde, who ended up going to Temple. Those were the beginners who really, Attila Cosby, who ended up going to Pitt. A lot of those kids were, we had some no-namers, but we turned them into some really good players. But what really took us to another level, was just winning. I mean, I think we came out of nowhere beating everybody, and people was like, who the hell is these guys? They been on the circuit in none of these events. So, from then on, though, the DeMar Johnsons and the Keith Bogans and, Sir Val Brown, kid went to GW, led country and scoring as a freshman. All these kids played a major, major part, man. And it just continued to grow, and everybody wanted to be a part of DC Assault.
Curtis, you had, and let's kind of dive into this next part now. And I haven't read your book yet, but I want to read it bad. And so I want to really learn your story. And trust me on this, Curtis, I've put my foot in some bear traps many times in my lifetime now, and we've all made mistakes. It's part of being a human being. But talk a little bit about, for you in your own personal life. Here you've got this high-profile, prominent, very, very well-respected program with all these young kids. They're playing all over the country. They're in the NBA. Guys have gone on to do amazing things in your program. But then it kind of takes a turn for the worse in your personal life. Talk a little bit about that, kind of how all that began, and then what happened with that.
Yeah. Well, I back in around 2000, I was trying to make a decision to get on the sports management side. Jumped in bed, worked with Dan Fagan and some guys. And that was my end goal, was to create my own sports management side. And from there, things were going really good, signed some really good players. And then, things took a turn. I stopped working with, Fagan, rest in peace, who passed away. And, from there, financially, things just started getting a little rough for me, man. I was living at a pretty good high level. Things started to make some turns, and things weren't going the way, I was used to them going. And I just end up dipping and diving back into that world, just to make, continue to be able to take care of everybody. I got all the weight on my shoulder, trying to make sure the program's still at the level it's at, trying to make sure the parents are okay, but always just putting everybody else first. And I just jumped back into something I had no business doing, man. Really, that's what it all boiled down to.
And talk a little bit, Curtis, about, and here's what I like too. I like how authentic you are. Like, I've always thought this about you. Like, you're a real dude, like you're not, it is what it is. And again, like I said, I've made my own mistakes, but talk a little bit about that and what ended up leading you to the place you were, where you then were sentenced and had to spend some time in prison. Just talk about that a little bit, how hard and tough that was for you.
Well, it was a life changer. You know what I mean? But one thing I always knew that Curtis Malone would do is always stand on 10 toes and accept whatever responsibility and whatever actions he's done. I'm going to take responsibility for it and hold myself accountable. And for me, the worst part is getting away, leaving your family, man. And, don't know how long you're going to be in prison, because during that time, I really didn't know if it was going to be bad, good, or real bad. You know what I mean? So for me, it was really an adjustment and realizing my life has now changed because I'm going to jail. Like, it ain't no getting around it. I don't know anything about the word rat or informant. I don't do none of that. So I had to stand on and accept what I had did wrong in my actions.
Curtis, for you, just like the whole thing of, selling drugs or whatever it might have been, I know that's something, for all of us that, again, we make mistakes, but for you, like, as you started to get into that, how were you navigating that through kind of, that's your private life over here, you're kind of doing this, but then you're also, you're just this respected guy over here. You got it's kind of a double life you're living at one time.
It's two worlds, and I had to live both at a high level. I always tried to keep it and separate it away from my basketball program. Even with doing my investigation, the feds and IRS, they put a hold on my nonprofit. They thought I was putting money, laundering money through the program, which, my 501c3, which I had never did anything like that. I never included the two, no kind of way. So there was nothing they could get me on, like tax invasion or, laundering. They couldn't get me on any of those things, and they tried. But again, I just had to be careful on both sides of the fence, and not bring that world into kids and the families, into their lives.
Curtis, for you, as you wake up one day and you're in prison, you're there, and the sentence is laid down, and now you're there. Talk about maybe some of the first things that were going through your mind on that, like, first day, like, wow, like, man, this is real. Like, this is really happening. I'm really sitting here. And
yeah.
Talk a little bit about what you went through, because there are so many young people too that, you're kind of on the fence sometimes as far as, okay, I might make a bad decision, I might not. And there are consequences for all of us. I've lived
Yes.
through them in my own life. And, but just talk about that and that kind of those first moments for you. Like what was in your gut? What was in your soul? What was in your head?
Well, to be honest, I had been getting away with doing it for a while. So for me, I'm just praying that it's not as bad as I think it is. You know, when they first arrested me, they made it seem like it was just a normal pullover and you'll get back out. Then I ended up going to court, and from regular court, the small court, the judge tell me, y'all can take him away. He's going across the street on Tuesday. So that's the big court, the federal court. So, I mean, all these things running through my mind. I'm like, what the hell? Who told on me? Who snitched on me? My mind is just everywhere, you know. How long, what this going to look like, So, but I also had to really, really just sit back and say, you know what, if this is what it is, this is what you got to deal with. So you might as well start preparing yourself mentally to deal with it, because I know what I was doing. So it's not like I'm sitting in there saying I didn't do anything. No, I know what I've been doing and I know what I've been getting away with. So now, is it going to be the hammer on my head or the slap on my wrist? So again, being in there, I realized that my life changed. My parents are older. I'm wondering, damn, will I see my parents ever again? Will I be able to see them and they don't pass on me, while I'm here in prison? They were so shocked and, in college and doing things and have their own business. So for me, so much was going through my mind, Coach, that it wasn't one thing. It was all over the place. But I know it's real, and then when you go to DC jail the next day, it's officially real now at this point.
Curtis, I can remember, a couple of times in my own life where I've made some really bad mistakes. I remember sitting down with my kids and, they were old enough to understand. And all I wanted to do is be honest and say, hey, look, I made a mistake and I don't want you to make the same mistakes, but here's what happened. And I look back, some of that's like some of the hardest things I've ever done. So like with your family, I know you got a lot of people, there's a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
But nothing is like your family. Like your family's different. And you got to sit down and tell your family, your children. Talk a little bit about how hard that was for you.
Well, I think that I didn't, I had to explain to them what happened. Of course, with them saying it on the news and on everything, on all social media and different things, it took them by surprise. But I just had to be straight up with them. During that time, my parents didn't know I was back into that. So I just really had to be honest with my family and my loved ones and make sure they understand, this is what I did. This is what I done. This is where I'm at now. And this is what this is where it's landed me at. And so for them, it was a little tough. But once they got to come and see me and visit me, I think that made them feel a lot better than just a phone call. So I think the visits were a lot better than on the phone talking about.
Hey, Curtis, here's a question. I think this happens to a lot of people at different levels, and things happen and hard things happen. And sometimes when they do, there's a lot of people that we think were our friends, but all of a sudden they disappear. They're gone.
Yeah.
And then you kind of learn who really loves you and who cares about you. Did that happen with you as far as all of a sudden, man, that phone is gone, it's not ringing, and man, I thought this person really cared about me, but they disappeared. Talk a little bit about that for you.
Well, it was a few that ran away from it. Some for, I also had friends who police friends and people couldn't be involved with me who almost got in trouble. Different things, stuff like that. But for the most part, I I lost some, but not a lot, Coach. And again, I think that went from 20 years of doing and being really good to people and having their back, that I think that a lot of people rode with me. They really rode with me. And some did. And some of the same ones wanted to come back when I came back. But for the most part, we're used to prison and we're used to our friends coming home. We're used to going to visit friends in jail. This is the normal life what we grew up seeing. I mean, family in jail, I had brothers and sisters in jail. So it was the norm. So again, I didn't have many that turned their back on me. Some did move away from me, but some I did understand why too.
Yeah. Curtis, when I think of you, and I have like great respect. I mean, I have great respect. And, it was funny when I was at NC State, and there was another person that I actually really loved, and we recruited some guys out of his program from Atlanta. You know who I'm going to talk about here. The general, one of my closest buddies. I love him like a brother. And at NC State at one time, they wanted to not allow him to come to the games because he had, a period in his life where he got in trouble. Yeah. But for me, it was always different. It was like sometimes when people go through adversity, they learn the hard way. And really, I'd rather be in the trenches with them because it's real and it's authentic, and they have learned a lesson. That's right. So for me, it was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, I won't turn my back on the guy because, matter of fact, that's when he needs his friends more than anything, quite honestly. And so, and I've had some other people like that as well, but I'm glad to hear you say that because to me, the respect that I have, I've always had respect for you, but even the respect now I think is even more. You made a mistake, you paid the price, you did your time, you did what you're supposed to do. And now let's talk about your book, because to me that is a testament to who you are, because it seems to me like you're interested in helping other people to hopefully not fall into the same mistakes you do. But talk a little bit about why you wrote this book and what's your real message in the book.
Well, I wanted to, when I first got arrested, I said to myself, I'm on every channel, the Washington Post, doing a story. And I think for the most part, a lot of people sort of painted a bad picture. And so for me, I wanted to tell my own story, from Curtis, everything and how I got to where I got, and I just felt like it's some valuable jewels for kids, adults, anybody. And I was determined that I'm not going to just sit in jail and just don't do anything. So I took the time to really write my story, man, because I wanted to tell my story in my own voice, in my own words. And I did that. And hopefully whoever read the book can learn some valuable lessons from, alcohol abuse, selling drugs, but also, just cutting corners, taking shortcuts in life, fast money. Guys so easily will go and hang out with the wrong crowd. Kid jump in the car with the wrong guy. He got a gun in the car. Your career ruined, So I just wanted to tell the story of my consequences that landed me in jail, from my actions and my choices that I made, and the right choice sometimes may seem like it ain't the right thing, but at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do. Sometimes you can say no. You can say sometime I'm not going with this person. You can say, I don't want to be with that woman. That's not the right woman for me. Everybody have choices they can make. So I just really wanted to put it in the book, and, hopefully people enjoy the read, man.
Curtis, how has the response been like for you with some of the families, as those kids were, the parents and kids, and, you're close to all those people. People don't realize that, how close you are to kids, their families, as you watched them grow up. They've all been a part of your program, but how has the response been from them to see you now where you've written a book, you're trying to you've always had a positive influence on people, but you're really trying to make that positive influence now. How's that response been?
The response has been great. And it didn't take me to return. The response was just as good a while away. I always tell people, my counselor would call me and say, "Hey, Malone, no more visiting forms." I had 80 plus people on my visiting list. And I mean, parents of kids were coming to see me. They supported me. All of them wrote letters to the judge, character letters. So for me, it was like I never missed a beat. I was just gone away from the family and all my people. But I mean, I talked to them while away. And I mean, when I'm doing things, when I'm having parties, when I'm having events, everyone support me. So it's been great, man. It's been real. I'm blessed. I'm blessed because I've seen guys go away and come back to nothing. And I've seen guys who are in there don't have nothing, and I'm one of the few that, I know guys been in 20, 30 years, haven't had a visit, and don't have anything. So I was one of the guys that were blessed. And so I still gave my heart, my love to guys who I got a chance to meet. And I met some very good guys in there that, I'm still in their corner now to this day.
What is one or two nuggets, Curtis, from your book called Duplicity? And people need to read this book, number one. They need to get your book. They need to read it. But what is a nugget or two for you? Like, okay, I hope people get this out of my book. I hope they get this thing or two. What would those things be?
Well, I think for sure, I don't think it's a certain order, but greed is bad. When when greed is, and you have to have money, you're willing to take the shortcut to get it. It's only two ways to it: dead or in jail. That's no other way. So to work hard for everything you get. Stay focused. Keep away from the wrong crowd, make the right decision and choices. And, be a great human being. You got to be a great person. And I think that's my blessing. I talk about a lot in the book because of the support I have. And that support didn't just fall out of the tree or the sky. It fell out of people's heart because I've been a great person to so many people that they wanted to have my back through it all. But, the fast life is no end to it. It's a dead end, at the end of the day. But that's my biggest thing, man, greed, man, because, when you get so accustomed to money, it's guys we know that had money, played in the NBA, played in the NFL, they go broke, man. They ready to go and do insurance frauds and whatever it takes to get money. And, if you do all the right things the right way, you shouldn't have to cut corners to get what you want.
Curtis, why the name Duplicity for the title of your book? Tell us why you came up with that name.
Well, first of all, what I was doing, I was telling my kids one thing not to do, and I was doing the same thing. So really just me telling a lie, and that's what duplicity is. I'm telling the kids not to do one thing, and here I am doing the same thing. So yeah, that was the reason for the book,
Curtis,
and the title.
And I say this. I was telling some other people that you were going to be a guest on my show, and I've told them that my respect for you has grown. I always did. I mean, my interactions with you were always amazing, but my respect for you and what you are doing right now today is greater than it ever was. regardless of anything that you did. And it's because of your willingness and desire to help other people. You've always done that. You've always been helping young people. But the respect level has grown. And so I hope other people feel that, and the people around you. I hope they feel that as well, Curtis.
Yes. Well, I appreciate it too, Coach. But again, I didn't have no players for you. But at the end of the day, we always had a great relationship. And no matter what, that's who I am. Mm-hmm. It's not based on what I can do for you. That's never been how I judge someone, or, so for me, I appreciate, the feelings and how you feel about me and the respect you have for me.
Let's change gears just a little bit before we wrap this up, Curtis, and we're going to have a little fun now. We've talked about a lot of great stuff, but I know you've heard this question 100 times. You're a basketball guy like me. You've grown up in the gym. You've been in the gym your whole life. You've been around great players. You've coached great players. You've developed great players that have gone on to do great things. Let's start off with the first question. Who is Curtis Malone's opinion of the GOAT? Who is that guy? I'm curious to know your answer.
Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, hands down. I love LeBron, but Michael Jordan. I mean, Kobe was making a push, but it's Michael Jordan, hands down.
When you talk to young people that have come through your program, do the young people have a different opinion? The younger ones?
Yeah, everybody. A lot of them they like LeBron because a lot of them like his shoes too. They, they pick a player because of his shoe.
That's too funny. I always tell people too, Curtis, people forget about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in there in that conversation too. That guy wasn't bad either now for what he did throughout his career. But I'm with you on that one. If
he could be at the top.
Huh?
He could be number one.
That's right. And I tell people I got a 1 and a 1A, and it's Jordan and Jabbar. That's for me. And, I always tell people this one too, Curtis. If you had to win a game, I ask all these young people, I said, if you have to win the game tonight, or they'll never let you in the gym the rest of your life, who you picking? And the answer is usually Michael Jordan. And then I say, case closed.
Yeah. Yes.
Closed.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Do you still love going in the gym, Curtis? Do you love being around these young kids, and you love having an opportunity to hopefully impact them?
I'm getting back a little used to the gym. Not what I'm used to saying, but it's pretty good. Yeah. It's a talented. These kids do more workout. They got trainers everywhere now. I can't go watch a pickup game because they don't play that no more. No.
You're right on that. Well, Curtis, man, this has been it's been a great opportunity to spend time with you. And again, I want everybody that listens and is watching this to get a copy of Curtis Malone's book called Duplicity. This is an amazing person who has an amazing story to tell that I think impacts all of us in our daily lives, because all of us, we have those times in our lives where we make decisions, and sometimes they're good and sometimes they're not. It's a part of being a human being. But what you're doing now, Curtis, is I just say hats off, man. I'm proud of you, and I have great respect for you, and I don't wish anything but the best for you for the rest of your life.
Appreciate you, Mark. And we just started DC Assault back up. So it is underway. So we back trying to get it rolling, boarding some of the older players and former players coming back to help. So we back doing it.
Good. One of the great stories, Curtis Malone and his book, Duplicity. Curtis, thank you so much for being on the show today. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you.